In 1955, America and the world was horrified by the brutal murder of 14-year-old Emmett Till. Young Emmett was from Chicago and was visiting his family in Money, Mississippi. He was in the store when a white woman, Carolyn Bryant, accused him of flirting with her. Soon after, Emmett Till was kidnapped from his uncle's house, and 3 days later, his horribly disfigured body was found. Till's mother, Mamie Till Mobley, made the decision to hold an open casket funeral in Chicago so the world could see the horrors of Jim Crow and lynching. The images sparked worldwide outrage, but the men who murdered Emmett Till were found not guilty by an all-white Mississippi jury. In 2017, author Timothy Tyson released details of a 2008 interview he did with Carolyn Bryant. He said that during the interview, she admitted to fabricating parts of her testimony at the 1955 trial. In June of this year, an unserved arrest warrant charging Dunham, her then husband Roy Bryant, and brother-in-law J.W. Milam, dated August 29, 1955, and signed by the LaFleur County clerk, was discovered in a courthouse basement by members of the Emmett Till Legacy Foundation. Following the discovery, Till's family called for Bryant's arrest, and that's what we're going to talk about today. I have with me right now Ms. Priscilla Sterling. This is Emmett Till's cousin. And Ms. Sterling, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine. How are you? I am doing fine. Glad to be a part of the show.
Thank you so much, and thank you for joining me. Well, let's get right into it. Why do you think this warrant wasn't served, and why has it taken so long for this document to be rediscovered?
Being here in Mississippi and knowing what we know about this warrant not being served, it has political ties as well as white supremacy. And that's the reason why Carolyn Bryant was never charged and was never intended to be charged. As you all know, Emmett was taken from Uncle Moses' house August 28, 1955. I'm doing like you. 1955. And that morning, Uncle Moses went to the sheriff department, reported that Carolyn Bryant, Roy Bryant, J.W. Milam, along with 3 black guys on the back of a truck, had come to his house and had taken Emmett away. Well, the next day, August 29, 1955, Roy Bryant and J.W. Milam were taken into custody and locked up. On the back of that warrant was it was noted that Carolyn Bryant was nowhere to be found. Go to the trial September 17, 1955. Carolyn Bryant is in the trial with her husband, the murder trial. They are acquitted. A few months later, November, there's another trial for kidnapping. United States Senator James O. Eastland and United States Stennis had gone to the Department of Defense, had taken Louis Till Fowles and brought him into the court, the trial, the kidnapping trial, to say that Emmett's daddy, Louis Till, had raped a white woman and murdered 2 Italian women. And they used that in the court, which got these men acquitted. So what we know is Carolyn Bryant was never intended, and her name is Carolyn Holloway Bryant, which Holloway is a well-known plantation. They own slaves here in the state of Mississippi. So her family were well-known slave plantation owners. So we know now that it was never intended for Carolyn Bryant to go to jail or to be charged with a crime. So that's why we're pushing she should be charged with kidnapping and murder, the same as J.W. Milam and Roy Bryant, because as you all know, on the arrest warrant, it has Roy Bryant, J.W. Milam, and Miss Carolyn Bryant.
There's many people among the general public and in legal and legislative positions who will look at this crime as ancient history, and they'll say to move on, to get over it, that it was a long time ago. What do you say to people who may be in positions of power and influence to influence political policy who may feel that way?
Well, if you find an arrest warrant of a murder, and we know the statutes of a murder here in Mississippi is still, it's valid. You can go to jail for a kidnapping and murder here in the state of Mississippi. So what we're saying is do your jobs, and even the legislators here want Dwayne Richardson, who's the DA, to issue the arrest warrant. The state of Mississippi, our legislators want them to want Dwayne Richardson, and if he does not, we're going to get him out of office. He is in an elected position to do the work, and he has not done. As a matter of fact, I talked to a senator here yesterday who says that they are putting pressure on Mr. Richardson to serve that arrest warrant.
Have you gotten pushback from both sides on this issue? Have you had legislators who say we support you, and have you had legislators who say let it go, or has it been mostly positive, or people saying that we want you to go forward with trying to get this
It's
warrant
been
served?
positive. It's been positive because you have to realize, although she's in her 80s, Emma was 14 when he was taken from the house. Imagine your 14-year-old son supposed to be in the house playing game or hanging out with friends or playing basketball in the front yard, and he's taken by racist white men, driven in the backwoods. There's no telling. Do you not know what Mamie had on her mind and how she left here? Wondering, she was not there to protect him, what he was going through the moment that they took him from the house. Imagine that for a mother, and then she dies at 81. Heartbroken. Her entire life, wondering. She was not there with Emmett to take the horrific ride, to be taken off and murdered and beaten and talked to any kind of way and kicked. Imagine that. So you think that we are thinking about what legislators and others are saying, that, oh, get over this? If it was your child, would you get over it? No. If justice should be served and a warrant has been found, and the warrant says kidnapping, she is charged with kidnapping, we'll serve the warrant. Do your job. Justice for Emmett Till.
In many ways, the worldwide outcry against the atrocity that happened to Emmett Till was a precursor of the modern activist movement, where cell phone videos of police misconduct and white supremacist attacks against black men and black women can travel around the world overnight and mobilize communities and mobilize nations at some point. Do you think the movement to hold Carolyn Donham accountable for her actions is kind of a full circle moment right now? It's coming away from what happened in 1955 to 2022, and she's still being demanded to be held accountable?
Yes, sir. Yes, they are. This is about trying to maintain a white supremacist structure in the United States. And these are organizations that are getting together, especially in law enforcement. It's not by chance that white men have been shooting down black men that hold law enforcement position. That just doesn't happen. That just didn't happen. That's plotted, planned, and then they shoot them 4 times. You realize every time one of our black men, when a police situation, was shot 4 times. All this is already planned and pre-organized, and there's no telling what kind of accolades or what they're getting from doing this, or what kind of or how high they're moving up in the Klan for doing this.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you think that what we're seeing in the modern day, when it comes to people, taking pictures of the police creating misconduct and pictures of the police victimizing black people, do you think that that's sort of on the same continuum as to what happened with Emmett Till and what Mamie Till Mobley was able to mobilize by showing his open casket and showing his body?
Yes, that's the best thing she could have done. The best thing Mamie done was to have an open casket and let the world see what hate had done to her son. Hate that sits in positions of authority right now that does not want to see us progress in the United States. And that's what we need to challenge.
All right. You talked about her struggle and the pain she dealt with. No parent wants to lose a child, especially in the horrific way that Mamie Till Mosley lost Emmett. But she was able to channel that rage and that grief into action. But that pain is still there. Can you speak on what it's been like for the family to have to live with that pain for over half a century?
Yes, we have family divided right now on how it's weird, because I remember my son getting ready to go to a prom, and he was taking a white Mexican girl to a prom, and they were going to the mall to get the flowers or something, and I could not believe that I followed him to the mall, waited out by the car just to see what may happen. Mind you, And I don't know, it's something that staying here in Mississippi and watching the just our family, what we've gone through, the pain and the turmoil of knowing that this woman got away with murder and kidnapping and she never was charged, and it was privilege. It's some type of privilege, because if something happens to my son and he's provoked by white men, nothing's going to happen to the white men that are provoking him and at him because of dating this white girl. But mind you, my brother wife is white and my sister husband is white. So, and then we have other family members that are slighted, like are afraid and don't and looking for like what may happen, or it's weird. It's weird. It is so weird because you can't help these feelings. You try to.
Now, what feelings do you mean when you say what feelings? What feelings exactly? What are you talking about?
A feeling of fear of how they'll be treated, and we have not come past a certain phase in this society, to me. Although there are plenty interracial couples and marriages, but they are still being ridiculed. They're still being looked up upside the head crazy and mistreated, and the interracial, the children are being mistreated. And it's just, I don't know, it's crazy. It's just, I can't explain it.
When you say the family, when you say the family is divided, do you mean like some of the family is focused on trying to forgive, or one part of the family is trying to keep completely away from people who victimized the family before? Is that what you mean?
When I say they're divided, they have certain feelings about dating interracially for fear of what may happen to the person. Yes.
Okay. Has your family been, has there been conflict in the family about how to proceed and try to get justice for Emmett Till?
No, everybody's on the same accord. They want Carolyn Bryant arrested, Dwayne Richardson to issue this arrest warrant, to convene a new grand jury, and to do his job, to allow new evidence to come into this new jury.
Okay. Well, on July 15th, Michelle Williams, who's the chief of staff for Attorney General Lynn Finch, released a statement saying there's no new evidence to open the case back up. What are your plans to get the case reopened going forward?
The state of Mississippi, to me, has no right to speak on reopening of a case. President Biden's Justice Department should override anything that comes from the state of Mississippi talking about not reopening the case, simply because they allowed it to happen. They never acted up on their search warrant, and it took them 67 years for my family to come here and find this search warrant, when the entire time we've been meeting with the Department of Justice on serving this arrest warrant to her. We've always known that there's been an arrest warrant, but they never, well, there's no new evidence. Oh, well, this is the evidence, along with Will Hill. And then they're talking about Carolyn Bryant with this memoir, which is a bunch of crock of bull, because why would you come out now 67 years and say, oh, I was trying to protect him, I didn't want them to know it was him? That's a lie. So we don't even want to hear that. That's just a narrative with some journalists coming to try to have sympathy for Carolyn Bryant. It's over with. That's something that should have happened in 1955 and in 2022.
All right, as you said, it's been 67 years since the lynching of Emmett Till. What would justice for him and for his mother look like to you?
A curriculum that would promote better mindset, behaviors, and attitude toward reconciliation efforts for whites and blacks. That's what, because she was an educator, as I am an educator, and education has the possibilities of changing attitude, mindsets, and behaviors. So that's what justice would look like for me, as well as making sure the perpetrators of the lynching victim of Emmett We only have Carolyn them. But you got all these lynching victims out here. The perpetrators are still alive, and no one is willing to challenge and go get them jokers. Go get them. They might be sheriff, they may be DA, they may, whomever they are. Go get them. Do an investigation and lock them up. Get the perpetrators today that are still alive. Don't wait 67 years to go after these men that found these boys hung in trees. And the people are right here and the evidence is right there. What is wrong with us Black folk not going after this stuff? We just sit silently and do nothing. We have no organization that a person can call and say, hey, look, we need for you all to come and check this out. Before the police, another justice system, Emmett Till justice system, some other form of law enforcement, some other form of organizations that are able to come on site and have the credentials to say that's a homicide, and not allow a racist to go on site and say it was suicide just so they can lock up the white men that killed these men and women.
All right. Well, Priscilla Sterling, thank you so much for your time, and you have a good
Thank
rest
you
of the
for
day.
having me.
Much love.
Much love.